Welcome. It is episode 70 of Big Fight Weekly, taking over Stu'S Wrestling Podcast, episode 167. And I have got my co-host and cousin waiting in the wings to come on. We said we were going to do more shows. So yeah, Chris, Big Fight Weekly back, episode 70, 2024, mate. I'm going to go straight into it. Du'S versus Strickland. And I've read mixed stuff online. There's been varying opinions on it, mate. So what was your opinion of the fight?
I took it as, I thought Du'S was fantastic. He really made Strickland work. I think Strickland had a hard going of controlling it like he did with Adesanya. And you saw in the Adesanya fight, completely controlled the fight. Du'S was just on top of him, pushing him. But what I will say is, as much as Du'S did fantastic in the whole fight, I still think Strickland was in control. Those jabs, it was managing to nail him with those jabs constantly. And, the cut above his eye was, it was Du'S coming in and headbutting him. It wasn't a punch. There was a slow down video of it. When he comes in against the cage, he comes in quite close. And then obviously the head hits above the the eyebrow. And yeah, I still think Strickland controlled the fight. I don't think he lost. I think if you really, really want to push to stats wise, I think Strickland won the fight I'd say 49-48.
And there was obviously a split decision, which has caused controversy. Chael Sonnen, my friend and yours when it comes to...
good old Chael.
He's all right after the event. He can speak about it, can't he? And he was going mad about Dana and Joe Rogan, about what they thought. He was like, there's no way. He said he had it 5-0 or 4-1.
To Du'S?
I think so, yeah, from what I read.
I was going 3-2 to Strickland, and only just. Strickland didn't run away with it. He wasn't in control. Like I said, if we go back to the Adesanya fight, it was in complete control of the whole fight. Du'S made him work and push the pace. He took a hell of a lot of straight jabs to that nose and to the eyes. You saw the eyes.
Yeah. It was a bad one round by his eye and his head. Yeah.
But I saw it as a very close fight, but Strickland still controlling. I think he had obviously that odd round when his eyes got split with the headbutt, and as it can do, because it was right above the eye and it was going in the eye, so you are going to be disorientated or a bit of blurred vision. He did probably lose that round, but if I went all in all, I still think Strickland won the fight.
We got a comment here as well. Lewis Young up in Scotland there, Chris. Right, hello, Lewis. I know you always watch us when we're on, so yeah, hope you're doing well up there, mate. And maybe your thoughts on it, Lewis. I'm assuming you've seen it. Just controversy, I think, Chris, would be the word here. But you leave it in the hands of the judges.
Well, that's just the thing. Yeah,
I know it's the old cliche, but again, it is, isn't it? But it's not necessarily that you're gonna. They're hard guys. They're hard guys, aren't they? To get a stoppage, you've really got to go some, haven't you, to get a stoppage?
I think it's just one of them. You know what I mean? Okay, it's not again a great outcome for Strickland. I think he goes back. And you can reboot this fight. Have a rematch. Put them in again, and see what happens the second time round. You know what I mean? And maybe we'll get a finish. But really, I think Strickland's not really a fighter that finishes many people. You know what I mean? He controls fights, yes, but he racks the points up.
Now, there's been questions. I've listened to other podcasts and stuff. A British guy, the name of his show eludes me. He says when you see what he does in round one and he does it in round three, I think he was basically getting at Strickland's very samey in his style. Is that a factor to you? Does that not help him? And to be fair, he stopped. He was good when he was getting taken down. In fairness to Strickland, he was getting up, wasn't he, from the takedowns as well, just to make people. I make an argument here. It's not just about him striking all the time. He did well when he was getting taken down as well.
I think he got thrown off by it. I don't think he expect Du'S to take him down. He's a big dude, is Du'S. You could say he quite easily make 205 if he really wanted to. He's big for the 185 division. Yeah, he did pop right back up in, but that just showed you. I mean, Strickland's trained with some really good wrestlers. He does in his own gym. Don't forget, he also trained with Hazmat Shemaev not long ago. There's a lot of back and forths between them since the fight, anyway. But shock horror. But in relation of the fight, because it was close, and I think a lot of people can choose one way or the other. And we've been through a few of these fights when we've been doing this podcast, where it's very close, where you could go either way. I had my head on Strickland winning a fight again, very close. I probably still would have gone with split, but I would have still gone Strickland's way.
The other way, with it, like
you can put them back together and say, August sometime or September, throw him in again. Gives Adesanya still enough time to decide what he wants to do, and you can have him come back at the end of the year and have the winner versus him.
DDP's not daft, is he? I want Izzy because he knows that's where he's going to make the most money. Fight. He's going to pull in the most chunk of change. I know, obviously, I know he's not just governed by money. It's a fight he's going to want as well. But that is where you're going to make the most money, isn't it? Fighting him. That's where your biggest payday is going to come from.
But everyone who's a champion, who's been a champion, and in that division, there's only really two big names who've controlled it for the longest. Anderson Silva being one, as you well know. That's, he cemented the 185 division, and the 185 division will always be stuck with Anderson Silva. But Izzy, after it, defended the title almost the same amount. So, yeah, he is the money fight. When we spoke about Izzy, I recommended he went back up. I went up to 205, really, me personally, and did it properly, because there isn't really anything for him. But that fight does make sense against DDP. Go for that, and then see where he wants to go after that. Personally, I think he goes up a division, because who does he face after that? Yeah, he can rematch Strickland. Yeah, I just think Strickland's style is a bit too awkward for Izzy, because he can, flat down all that fancy pants, and in his sort of way he sort of strikes, Izzy can't get through that and can't get close enough. So that is, as you say, it is the money fight.
Hello, Isaac. Hello, lads. Glad to see you both at it again. Yeah, it's a quick one. It's a quick one, but we are going to cover. We'll have several bits to cover. Chris, I've seen today that Aspinall, they'd offered the fight to Stipe in April. He's turned it down. What are your thoughts on that? Just going into the heavyweight division, Norman Thomas.
Yeah, of course.
What's your thoughts on that? Do you think that is? He's not going to lie about it, is he? But is it just Stipe's been out the game too long and he's not going to come back?
I think it's the people that I wouldn't say he's frightened, because no fighter is frightened. But facing Tom Aspinall, and I think what Miocic beat Ngannou, almost 4 years ago now, and that's his last win. Oh, obviously, sorry, Daniel Cormier, and that again was years ago. And then he's been out the cage since then. When he lost the title. He's 40, 41, 42 now. It's a lot of wear and tear on the body. Tom Aspinall's up and coming. His style is what people want at heavyweight. It's not just a banger. He can do it all. And that's a scary prospect for anybody up against him. And he proved it, to win the interim. He can bang hard as well.
I'd love it to get sorted, but I mean...
It's not going to be. It's going to be Miocic and Jones. I think that's the legacy fight there. And both of them retire after that fight. I'll tell you that now. And I feel sorry for Tom Aspinall, because I want to fight the best, and John Jones is the best. So that's where, that's a name you want on your list. But no, he's not going to. Unfortunately for him, he's not going to get that fight, because I still think they'll run away from him.
Who will he have? Obviously, he's not going to fight. He's not going to fight 3 times, is he? Very, very, very seldom do you see a champion fight 3 times. It'd be twice, wouldn't it, over the year? I'm right in thinking that. I know it has happened. I know it's in history, but who for Aspinall? Because he's going to want to fight.
It depends who's up there, really. Does he want to go and get that win back from Curtis Blades, maybe? Because me and you both have spoke about that on many times at arm's length, about how annoyed we were.
It's gutting, mate. It's gutting that you lose a fight with an injury. It's crazy. It should just be a draw. You know,
And then there's Pavlovich, but he's already knocked him out, and
yeah,
it's
just no
too
point.
soon.
It was too emphatic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit of a shame that nobody. It's just a shame.
They were the two, though. Yeah, they were the two that were marked for the top.
Yeah.
So when you put the two together before a title fight and one knocks off the other, this is now going back to like Ryan Bader and John Jones when they were riding that train as at 205. Oh yeah, 205. And John Jones derailed Ryan Bader, and then you're taking away a potential fight with potential up and comers. Unless you've got, well, it was still stacked with 205 at the time, but heavyweight, if you're losing two of your mainstays in the two big names of the division, and you look down and think, is there a big enough name then for Tom Aspinall obviously to fight against for the title? Because if they both retire, he's obviously going to have to fight someone for the title.
How about Cyril? I know obviously when he's gone down the pecking order. If I'm thinking of somebody, because they've not fought, and he needs a fight, and it's going to be a test, regardless of Cyril losing to John Jones. I'd put Gan up there for him at the moment, just so he stays active. He lost enough time with the injury. He's going to want to fight, isn't he? As champion, as interim champion, you know.
Well, of course, because as you said, he's been away from the injury. He had a couple of fights, didn't he? And he came through easily. You know, he took a fight on 3 week. Well, not even 3 weeks notice. It was 2 weeks notice, wasn't it? You know, against probably the most feared heavyweight in Pavlovich, who knocks people out, by just blowing with his fist. You know, and he dealt with that perfectly. Movement, speed, head movement, and then his combination to finish the fight was brilliant. You know, and his nerves must have been jangling because he's fighting for a title here. I know it was interim, but he still did it. I think Cyril Gane would be an interesting one because the styles are quite similar in how they move and how they use sort of the striking games and the kicking. But I just think Tom Aspinall's is more clever of what he uses. So he sets up things and makes traps. And I think Cyril Gane is, very meticulous, isn't he? He's like, he works things out. Tom's not going to let him work things out. And if he takes Tom down, because Cyril Gane likes a bit of, takedowns, he's going to get submitted again. Absolutely. Tom's like, people don't realize with Tom Aspinall is he's got an incredible jiu-jitsu game. This is why I'm not worried about him if he fought against John Jones and got taken down by John Jones, because, again, this is bread and butter. And this is what we like.
Isaac's just, we will go over to the boxing. Yeah, it was, I know he wasn't happy. You had Mayer winning that fight, didn't you? And I heard like six rounds to 4, but that's the boxing. We will skirt over the boxing because we want to talk about Ngannou and Joshua obviously fighting. But Frankie Edgar, Chris, going into Hall of Fame, I'm assuming during International Fight Week.
Yeah.
Legend, absolute legend of the game. When you think all the defenses he made and what a patron, what a guy he was for the UFC, and the fights were so good at the time, weren't they? But great news for him going into the Hall of Fame.
True underdog, don't forget when he fought BJ Penn in Dubai that time. True underdog. I remember sitting there watching it I think it was one of the earliest ones we had for a long, long time because it was in Dubai. And, obviously good times when it's in Dubai because the time worked really well for us over here. And, I was shocked because BJ Penn was at that time. He wasn't going to come down. He was still quite, competitive and he was still beating people. Wasn't far off just beating Diego Sanchez when Diego Sanchez was on a tear. And BJ Penn just upset the odds. And, Gray Maynard fights were fantastic. He stayed relevant for as long as possible as he can. He had 2 fights with Jose Aldo when Jose Aldo was in his prime. But obviously couldn't topple Aldo until obviously the notorious Conor McGregor did that himself. But, he's done a lot. He's fought the best. And he's fought a lot of up-and-comers as well. So, he's well-deserved Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. Who else would you like to see go in? Maybe, like a fighter, and then obviously they have like a rivalry, a match wing, don't they, as well, that they'll pick. So, I'd like to just see who would you like to go in that's not in there? Who do you think's deserving? Well, there's many that are deserving.
Oh, of course.
But who, one off the top of your head, do you think, they'll potentially go in this year?
This year?
Yeah.
Depends on who retires, doesn't it? Because if we say John Jones and Miocic do fight this year and they both retire, I imagine them both go in. You know what I mean? John Jones, no matter what he's done, and he's done some awful things, and it's ruined his career towards the end of it, which is frustrating. But you got to say he's guaranteed Hall of Famer, because what he did was no one else ever did. Remember how old he was when he beat Shogun? All the rivalries he made, Rashad Evans, Rampage Jackson, and what he did to Machida. Machida wasn't, someone you just choke out and just drop on the floor. Okay, you should have done that really, but hey ho. But yeah, and Miocic the same, because Miocic has defended the title more than everyone in the division. I still personally think if Cain Velasquez didn't get injured, he would have surpassed that.
Yeah.
And he's another one that should be in the Hall of Fame. I think, forget what's going on, in his personal life. Obviously, we can't say it, but what he did for the division, look what he did to Brock Lesnar. Everyone was scared of Brock Lesnar, and he destroyed Brock Lesnar without even, having to dig down to beat him.
That'd be good, and it'd be interesting to see who goes in. And obviously they'll pick a rivalry, a fight as well to go in there.
Well, yeah, but with rivalries at the moment, it's the one that really sticks out. Really,
it's not like things get heated, don't they? But I think there's been more heated tension, as you say, over the years, isn't there? There's been some real hatred. Sometimes you're looking at it, this is like pantomime, they're putting this on. Whereas you can tell when it's genuine heat, can't you? Between two guys, a lot of the times it does come through the camera, doesn't it? And there has been that, but yeah, I agree with you. It has really been a rivalry where,
yeah, and then you haven't had consecutive fights between them both. You know what I mean? There hasn't been. When you look at Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva, Conor McGregor, Khabib only had one, but there was so much shite that went into that. You know what I mean? Great, Frankie Edgar, I mentioned a minute ago. That is a Hall of Fame worthy rivalry. There's so many, you know what I mean? You go back to Tito and Chuck, but I know they're already in there. Well, I don't think Tito's probably been erased now by Dana White, but again, but there hasn't hit that height. It's hard. Maybe you say Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, right? Maybe, but it's a difficult one.
He was getting in the right. Tiz wasn't he, with Gareth A. Davis? I'd seen a clip. I think it's a few months old, maybe. No, I got told December, then I got told April. Conor was saying about not getting fights and stuff like that. Well, then he put it to him, well, you're going to get back in the boxing ring. And his ears pricked up then, didn't they?
Yeah, but then he's calling out the likes of KSI, and you think, oh, mate,
you don't need to. There's no need for you to do it, is there? No. It's not even for financial gain, because how much money he's already made. He doesn't need to do it, does he? And there's nothing. It's a nothing fight, that, isn't it? You'd have all the shit beforehand. But
yeah, great. But you had all the shit beforehand in the Tommy Fury one, and how fucking boring was when them two, touch gloves. And Conor McGregor's not even the same weight as KSI, and it's like, again, it's no point. I think he is getting pissed around a bit. I think he keeps saying he's fighting, and then Dana White saying no. I don't think he's going to main event UFC 300, but you never know with UFC, they could curveball it. I just don't think at the moment his star power, as much as it is massive, or people want to see him in the main event. I'd rather see a title fight, a big fight. So it's a difficult one. I think we'll see him before the end of the year. I do think we'll see him at the end of the year, but I don't think we'll see him after that.
Surely it's not going to be Michael Chandler.
I think that's probably the only fight. Or maybe let's switch it up and let's do Paddy versus Conor.
Oh my God.
I don't think he's dropped down that much yet. But if he was to stay in UFC, I don't think that, and he lost, say, against Chandler, I don't think Paddy's that far away from fighting Conor McGregor. If he was to stay and he lost to Chandler.
I did like all the shit with Tony Ferguson beforehand. You little fart. Fucking,
He did well, Tony Ferguson, to be fair. Paddy, when we spoke about it, Paddy just, he blew his load and all that in that first round, trying to get him out there. Mm-hmm. But he alluded that to himself. He said, we went for the finish and he went too hard with it. But, Tony, obviously we know now he's been released. Mm-hmm. But then, I think he should stop now and go into coaching. He doesn't need any more head trauma. But the mentality and people like him and Jorge Masvidal, Nick Diaz, they're just warriors, aren't they? So they'll go find something else to do.
What a run of wins he had, and it was Khabib. It was on, it was off. It was that never happened, did it? But then now becoming a journeyman, isn't it, and getting stuck in it, like you say. And then there's like a load of losses now, where when he was beating everybody, I'm just trying to think how many years ago, his record, his resume at the time, he was one of the top guys, wasn't he? But like the Khabib fight never happened for him, unfortunately.
3 times, yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, I think he would have lost, but that was the one, wasn't it, that they were pulling for, because obviously both guys were going hell for leather in their respective matches, weren't they?
It would have been great to see. I don't think, because they always, I remember when they're both, as you say, really hot and they were beating everyone. Well, Khabib beat everyone anyway, but so was Tony. And I think the worry was, Tony's going to be the guy that beats Khabib. I don't think so. Look, Tony at that point was very, very good standing up, and he had his darts chokes, and he was difficult on the ground. It still wouldn't have mattered with Khabib, because the pressure of Khabib is what isn't just the wrestling that beats you with Khabib; it's the constant pressure, and some fighters just can't deal with that, and which you saw when they fought them.
Absolutely. Moving on to boxing, Chris. I'll just get us into the boxing.
Yeah.
So obviously Ngannou, because since we were last doing the show, it was last month, was it December when we came on?
Yeah.
Obviously it wasn't announced at that time. It was a bit in March. Obviously Ngannou ranked in the WBC, as we've said before, and he's got Anthony Joshua. But Anthony Joshua says all the guys that he's fought, that Fury's fought, he's dismantled. But I don't know with this one. I think Ngannou is going to be, considering it's only his second pro boxing match, I don't think
the biggest
it's going to be
Britain.
as cut and dried as he thinks. It could go the distance, couldn't it?
You don't know how much Ngannou's put in since the Fury fight, and how much confidence that fight alone has elevated his sort of career in boxing, because it can do. Because in all fairness, I said he won. You really haven't told me what you thought. But
I thought you'd have to say I thought he edged it with what transpired, but
yeah,
it's Fury got it, but you've lost, but you've ended up in the top 10 of the WBC. It's to be fair to him, because that was the worry, wasn't it? It was like, well, how is he going to be boxing stance in a boxing ring? And he silenced a lot of people, I think. And Fury didn't take him seriously enough. And I'm not disputing Ngannou did fantastic. I'm not dismissing that. I'm not making that an excuse. That was on Fury, for allowing that to happen when he should have been on his A game a bit more than he was, wasn't he? Well, he was well off. He was well off.
But it's embarrassing as well, though, isn't it? You've just gone from squeaking past, this MMA guy who, again, with all MMA fighters that come over to boxing, get completely ridiculed. And his two former UFC fighters have gone into boxing, have pushed certain people very, very close. So maybe the tide is changing a bit. I'll put this one to you, though. So, Joshua's going to run through Ngannou. Okay, apparently now. Who hits harder?
I think Ngannou, mate, to be, in all honesty. And it's... The stats are there to prove it as well, aren't they? And Joshua did put people away, but I think, again, I think that's going to be the worry, isn't it? It's going to be in the back of his mind. If Ian corks one, it will be good night, won't it? And he looked really good. And do you know what? They weren't going to pay him what he wanted, and he's gone and done it, and he's earning big bucks, isn't he? Now he's earning huge money, and it's back-to-back fights on huge money for the guy. So you can't knock him, mate. You can't knock him for it. He wanted more than 6 figures in the UFC.
Yeah, and I think
done it on his terms. He's done it.
And he wanted to box.
Yeah.
Then it's just the thing is, it's like, just let him box. It's good for the brand. You think if you're still of the UFC now, and he just did that fight with Fury, people immediately, you're taking him over to UFC to see what this guy does in MMA, though you don't really need to have a look that far. Just go on YouTube and you'll see him knocking out Alistair Overeem's head into the fucking next flipping universe. You know what I mean? The guy can take a punch, and don't forget, like, obviously the gloves and the boxes are different, but he's taken punches from very heavy hitters when he has been caught, and he's run through it. I'm not saying anyone can hit as hard as Joshua in UFC, other than Ngannou himself. But he went, four rounds with Fury. As you say, maybe Fury didn't take it too seriously. It might have been maybe different if there's some implication on the line. But he dropped him. I'm not saying, Fury's been dropped quite a fair bit by heavy hitters, hasn't he? And it's no shock when he gets dropped in a way. But, he put a good flag for MMA, in the middle of the boxing ring that day. And I think if people think if Joshua's going to come in there and hit him once and he's going to, chicken dance and then fall to the floor, no. I think Joshua must be careful with him.
Absolutely. I tell you what, he's looked better though, Joshua.
Yeah, he did against
I've got to be fair. He was uncorking. He was uncorking punches. He was having a go at Valin because Valin, as we alluded to and we've said, Fury had a hard night's work with him, didn't he? It was questionable that the fight could have been stopped. I know we've said about the cut time and time again on this show, so I won't make too much about that. But he looks better, and I think Ben Davison will help him. I think he's got to just stick with Ben Davison now, Joshua. I think he's changed trainers too many times. But it seems to me that Ben Davison knows him well, and the confidence was gone, wasn't it, after Usyk? But hopefully, he hasn't looked as gun shy in more recent fights, has he?
But that's the good thing and he's a very, he got like a football player striker, as they say, isn't it? Confident striker. He's a confidence style boxer when he needs his confidence, doesn't he? He needs people behind him in a way to say, yes, you can do it, because he lets those demons in. And if you see when he goes gun shy and he doesn't want to throw those heavy hits and he just wants to box and just jab and win by points, you're opening yourself up to a world of people slagging you off then, aren't you? Because people want to see Joshua being what he used to be and go in there and hit a missile at someone's chin. That's what people knew him for. But, when you are losing against people like Usyk, it is going to take a lot out of you because he is too good.
Did you see about YouTube, the YouTubers, what His Excellency was saying? There'll be no fights like that in Saudi Arabia now. Not on his watch. He's totally coming away from the celebrity element. They've had fights in Saudi.
They had Fury and Jake Paul, didn't they?
I was watching an interview with him, and they know now, don't they? Because they've got all the promoters together for the pro rank fighters. He just said there won't be cards of that nature. So they're gonna make good money doing it, aren't they? With misfits and stuff like that. That'll carry on, yeah. But they won't be getting gargantuan Saudi money. He was adamant about that.
But that's good, and it's good for sport, because if they can continue getting these fights that everyone's always wanted together and continue doing it, people are going to switch back on. And I mean heavyweight for, I'm not saying the lower divisions, because most fights in the lower divisions do come together. People have always loved heavyweights because, obviously we all know what comes with heavyweights, but they've never, in the last how many years now, would you say you've had to wait for these fights to be put together? I'm not saying Joshua and Ngannou, because that's completely different. But I imagine if Fury gets past Usyk, they're going to work really hard on getting Joshua and Fury to fight there as well.
They have to get that done. There'll be enough time now for it to happen. If it's like next autumn, say,
yeah,
if they give them that space just to go, have a break and then go back in, it's working perfectly, isn't it? Because obviously we've got February, March for the two fights.
Yeah,
and then they can. I'm sure that'll be. All being the results go the way that both guys want, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That would be what would be happening. I'll tell you what I did like as well when they were saying about this 5-on-5 Matchroom versus Queensbury, Hearn versus Warren, and they were saying about doing that. That I thought that was a good idea.
Well, you know what, and they both got history of each other, haven't they? So they can build that up, at the same time. And and they should have been done ages ago, Stuart. It's a bit of wrestling, isn't it? Where it's like SmackDown versus Raw, sort of, like that sort of thing. Yeah. But absolutely. You're putting your best against his best. And I think it's intriguing. PFL have just done that with Bellator, because obviously they bought Bellator, and they've got an event where it's PFL champions versus the Bellator champions. Okay, the names aren't massive, but there's some really good fights there. You're intrigued by it. So things like that, do it. But stop making people wait so fucking long to do it. You know what I mean? Just do it, and you'll get the people paying or whatever they do to watch it, and people will fall in love with it again.
This is it. This is it. Yeah, it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. Looking forward to it. Anything to add before we go, Chris? Anything you'd like to bring up?
Didn't Isaac want to talk about?
Oh, Jonas and Maya, yeah. Well done, Chris, for remembering that.
Lead this one, mate. I didn't watch it.
Isaac would have had a go at me if I hadn't brought this up after pulling at the comment before. So, yeah, questionable again. I think Maya was outboxing it earlier on and into the middle rounds. But I think Jonas, whatever the judges had seen, it was a split, wasn't it? But obviously, the one judge that had Maya winning, it was a longer, she was had more rounds on that card than what Jonas was on the two that she'd won on. But I've heard some people saying it was Maya's 6-4 over the 10. Again, I think Jonas did well, but Maya did control it. She's naturally the bigger fighter. It's questionable again. It's judging Chris, isn't it?
Yeah.
If we're going to go back to what happened in the UFC in the main event, so it's similar. But Jonas has done well. But again, a lot of people had Maya winning it, and I know Isaac wasn't very happy about it.
Just put them back in again, then, isn't it? You know what I mean? When things are this close,
to be fair, I think that is what's going to happen. The second fight, and then obviously if they need the rubber match as a third,
yeah,
you'd think so, wouldn't you?
Well, unless someone gets knocked out conclusively, and then that sort of ends it really. Until the only way you'd put them back together is if one, say, got on a big run and the other one was champion again, and they sort of met again. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't watch it. You knew more than me, but obviously we know about judges' decisions and them being farcical quite often. Again, just don't leave it in the judges. Just go and knock the person out if you can.
Did box, in Jonas' defense, she did box well late on. I think that's what's got her through with those two judges. But it was close. It was a close fight. She was having a go. The shots, they were both getting shots off. It was good. It was a good fight. It was a good fight, to be fair. It's good, and it's good seeing the women headlining. We see it more and more now, don't we?
So we should, because they bring some really good fighters out there.
A good crowd in Liverpool, but again, you see, I think it's I still see empty seats, and I think it's because of pricing, Chris. I do think pricing's gone a bit out of control.
Yeah, and that's for everything now. Yeah, it's not. I mean, that's not just sports events. I mean,
why not fill these frigging stadiums? Because they're making money from the broadcasters.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with WWE, Chris. You're talking 4,000 or 5,000 for ringside at a WWE event now. And
who's got that kind of money now?
The working man can't do it. He can't take his kids. Again, with the UFC, you've said about the prices going up.
Well,
and I know
supposed to be one in Manchester, Stuart. I mean, I'm interested, but the likelihood of getting tickets before the touts take them anyway, you're priced out.
Yeah. Again, on top with that as well, because of the touts, so it's expensive anyway. And then the bastards get all the 6 tickets, don't they?
Yeah.
I'm all about this photo identification thing where they can't be sold on, which they've done with Glastonbury. Why can't they just implement this now? We've got
entirely. Yeah, I totally agree.
Do it across the board. But even a nosebleed seat now, Chris, for that. And you'd want to be in the arena. I'm not disputing that, the atmosphere. But again, like we've said, lads were on phones at those UFC events in the open. You're going to film a little bit here and there, aren't you? But
yeah, no, of course you are.
You're there to watch the fights, and you get a whole different vibe, don't you, being there in person and watching it on the TV.
You're taking away the commentary. You're not sitting there and being. I'm not saying that the commentators. I'm not going to say the names away because we know all the commentators, but people can get lost in what they're saying and agreeing. And really, when you take the commentators out and you listen to it and watching it, without any influence of anybody talking, I feel like you make your mind a bit more easier, and you're not easily influenced by, oh my god, you think shit, bloody hell, but nothing's actually happened. You know what I mean? You see things a bit more clearly, but nothing. And as you say, the atmosphere, the British, the Irish, the Scottish, the Welsh are starting to get there, but they always bring a banging card. Then they're very loud. They're very, passionate.
Would you do a PFL? Would you go to a PFL? Would that interest you? Or would you just don't want to go to the Premier organisation?
I'd go to any. There's good fights everywhere. Every organisation.
Cage Warriors, for that matter. You're going to see up and coming people, aren't you? I know. I know you'd enjoy every level of MMA.
I think, you know, we look at Cage Warriors. Cage Warriors is like the championship to the
Yeah,
PFLs and the
look how
UFC.
it's been very good. It's been very fruitful for guys, hasn't it? As well as a feeder system, and look how long Paddy carried on for longer, didn't he? There as well. There was talk about him going. So you're not knocking Cage Warriors there, are you? At all?
No, not at all. They produce some fantastic
It's a hell of a
fighters.
standard, and you know, okay, they have to get to a level, don't they? And UFC, it's the premier place, it's the elite place, but yeah, it's just pricing, mate. It annoys me. The pricing when they don't need to. Why hit the fans? They're making millions and billions out of TV deals, sponsorships.
There should be a level where, like, you know, I get front seats are going to be the most expensive.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, you're still looking as you go up and up and up. There's still 300-400 quid. And you're like, come on now. You mean we need to hit a level where, you know, you're looking at seats, okay, 100, 90, 80, you know what I mean? You need, as you're going up, you should be going down in price, not going, you know, staying relevant to middle floor or, you know, I feel the same.
I was lower tier in 2010 at 120 at the O2.
Right.
I think it was about 100, about 115 a ticket with the fees at the time. But they were good seats, Chris. I was in the lower tier, quite high up, but a great view because you're looking over the top of the cage, if you like, almost. But now you're not going to get tickets for that.
No.
It's just
I think when I went to Manchester for before Bisping got injured, it was meant to be him versus Munoz and ended up being Machida versus Munoz. I think our tickets were like 60 quid, maybe just a bit more. But you couldn't get it. You couldn't get a ticket. You couldn't go watch a band for 60 quid anymore. Everything's just ridiculously priced.
Well, you know that's to do with streaming, isn't it? Because they're looking to make money from the other. You know, they're heavily reliant now on merch and ticket sales, aren't they? But it's gone mad. It's gone mad, mate. It's gone crazy. But Chris, before we go, just where the viewers and listeners can find you on the socials, and give us some info, man.
Oh, info, bloody hell!
Info.
My name's Chris. You'll find me on Van Hume on X, because you can't call it Twitter anymore, Stuart. Don't forget. X now.
I'm still stuck in that though. I still call it.
I know it's a
Twitter, but then people say Twitter X, don't they? That's how they refer to it.
I just call it Twitter, innit? Because it comes out the mouth easier. Yeah, so it's Van Hume on Twitter, and then you'll find me the same name on Instagram. Big Fight Weekly for me and Stuart all over the social network. So you have to write it's Big Fight Weekly. Big Fight Weekly on all social medias, YouTube, Spotify. Apple, we're all there. All our past, present, and future episodes will be everywhere.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. This has been episode 70 of Big Fight Weekly, episode 167 of Stu'S Wrestling Podcast. Simulcast today. So we've gone across the board on the lives here. And I did have it down as episode 106. 7-7, so I was nearly up there with Joe Rogan. I think
I did see that. I did see it's like fucking.
I managed to amend it. I thought I'm on a par with Rogan. Then I thought no, Rogan's done about 3,000 episodes now,
and counting.
Yeah, and that's not including the other stuff he does, because obviously he's got
Fight Companion,
different shows, hasn't he? How well he's done.
Man of everything, wisdom, fight knowledge,
covering other topics, just covering a whole gamut of topics, like coming away from MMA. You know, he's had the boxers on, hasn't he? But it's just everything. It's supernatural.
Eddie Bravo's conspiracies.
Ash Dykes, who's local to here, that does all the exploring and goes also all these weird and wonderful places. I remember him having him on. But thank you very much, Chris, for coming on, man. And like we said at the end of last year, we said we will do more episodes than we did in 2023, won't we? Because there's a lot going on. There's a lot
big fights this year. Lots of big fights this year.
Absolutely. And we love it. We absolutely love that. So take care, everybody. We will see you soon for episode 71. And it'll probably be during Fury Usyk, which is coming up next month.
Yes. To the next one.
Take care, everybody.